I personally think Mario Odyssey is one of the best games ever made, and I wonder if the moon emblem will give this cup a good fortune. If I'm not mistaken, I think the moon is the only emblem based off a collectible in this game. The fruit cup and the turnip cup might come close to that, but not quite. You obviously have the star cup, but that has nothing to do with the stars that you collect in these titles. That being said, Mario Odyssey was on the Nintendo Switch. It wasn't a launch title, but it was close enough. A lot of people played it, and a lot of people loved it. So I think naturally choosing the moon as its representation is the perfect fit. Plus it's yellow, and that seems to be the most important thing. But the Shine Sprite was also yellow or gold or whatever, and now I'm just angry again. I hate the Fruit Cup. But anyway, the Moon Cup marks the second half of this Booster Pass half of the game. Or 75% of the whole experience if you prefer decimals. If you're new here, first of all, where have you been for the past 18 days? And second of all, I've gone through every cup leading up to this one, and we'll be going through the remainder of them every day at 11 AM Eastern Time until we make it to the Spiny Cup. This is the scorecard that I'm using to grade every one of these Grand Prix. Let's not tiptoe too much here. It makes perfect sense that the moon was picked, because after Galaxy they needed something from Odyssey, and the moon was really the most logical thing to pick. So we can take a look at the tracks in the Moon Cup. Starting us off, we have the Berlin Byways from Mario Kart Tour, followed by Peach Gardens from Mario Kart DS, and then we have the Merry Mountain, which is a brand new track, and rounding things off, the Nintendo 3DS's Rainbow Road. There are rules of how things are done around here, and apparently anybody can just decide to break them whenever they want to. Rule number 1 is that Rainbow Road will always be the finale of a Grand Prix. This of course does not matter if the Grand Prix is the Triforce Cup and Hyrule Circuit has to be the finale, which creates another rule. The Retro Cup always goes before the new cup, unless of course the retro track is a Rainbow Road and the other track is not from another franchise. So my big come away from this is that the most important rule to follow is that if you're from another franchise, you get to go last. Unless of course you're Excitebike, in which case you don't even get to be third, despite the fact that Dragon Driftway is a new course, but so was Ice Ice Outpost, so why was Excitebike disrespected like this? What's the point of setting all these standards and making all these rules if you're not going to follow a single one? Whatever happened to Nintendo being the company of quality control? Well, I guess Joy-Cons happened. Okay, so let me just walk through this real quick. I think there's actually a very clear set of rules here. First off, base game Nitro Cups have to have new courses. Base game Retro Cups have to have retro courses. If a cup contains a tour track, it must start the cup with that tour track. If a cup contains 2 tour tracks, the second tour track is the finale. If a cup contains something from a different franchise, that gets to be the finale. If it's Excitebike, it automatically goes second. And if Rainbow Road is available, it automatically goes last, unless one of the previous rules are applied, in which case it becomes treated as a retro track. And retro tracks always go before new tracks. Which again, unless it's Rainbow Road and there's nothing from another franchise in the same cup. Somebody print that out and make a chart and hang it on the wall. Because now that they've set a standard, I expect all future Mario Kart games to follow this. I know I sound crazy, but they've had the same structure through every game prior to this. And they just threw it all out of the window because of a mobile game and some DLC. So really, who's the crazy one? Okay, who's ready to talk about Berlin Byways? So first off, the fact that they have Womps representing the Berlin Wall and they fall down is hilariously awesome. Second of all, I feel like this track is full of excitement. I don't know too much about landmarks in Berlin. I don't know when exactly Berlin Byways was released onto Mario Kart Tour, but it must have been one of the later ones. Because this really feels like it was made by a team that really knew what they were doing. Almost none of the track feels like I'm just simply going through the motions. And following the path is actually not at all that difficult. There are like 5 or 6 different changes in the type of terrain you're driving on and the different types of obstacles in your way. Both Womps and Thwomps making appearances, in addition to all of the usual Mario cast cheering you on from the sidelines. I remember the first time playing this, it was like mayhem. Driving over the Womps sent us all flying and we didn't realize that was going to happen. Plus, I feel like the curve on this turn is perfectly placed and will help most people get around there, with them probably not even aiming for it. I think I have a Let's Play clip of this one. Don't worry, I'll keep the volume down so I don't deafen you all this time. But this basically happened to us the first time we played this track. This is...
Oh my god.
Oh my god, there's bananas everywhere at that finish line!
I got rid of all the bananas because I thought it was... Oh, no race! I didn't know Swamp was gonna send me flying! Oh my god! This is
I'm in speed now, you will go.
Oh no! I thought he was gonna kill me. I was going flying 50 feet in the air.
This is easily a 3-pointer for me, and it's one of my favorite city tracks in the game. I go out of my way to pick this one. Prior to this, there weren't many city tracks that I knew that I liked because I didn't know which one was which, but I knew this one, and I knew it by name, which really highlights just how much I enjoyed it. After that is Peach's Gardens. Or I guess technically it's just called Peach Gardens. Remember how way back on the Nintendo 64 when you would drive up to the castle walls and explore the castle? Well, I like to imagine that the reason they don't let you do it in this game's Royal Raceway is because Peach Gardens exists, so you can do it in that track. This track is a highlight for me. It's another one that I absolutely loved and adored on the DS, and loved it even more when they brought it here. I think all of the changes they made to it actually made it a lot more enjoyable too. And I'm not saying that if they had just ported over the original one, I would have not absolutely eaten it up and given it 3 points as well. But I definitely appreciate when they get creative, and the creativity pays off. The first track of the race doesn't even feel all that different. It feels more or less like a faithful remake, and all around looks gorgeous in my opinion. I love how big all of the usual Mario enemies look here too. The second lap is once again identical. But on the third lap, they throw in a surprise. Maybe you notice the segment on the bottom left corner of the map that hasn't been used yet. On your third lap, those red arrows that were blocking the entrance to that path are now opened. And now you get to go through the entire track in reverse. Which is already pretty cool, but when you get to the part where you get to fly over the bushes with the chain chomps bouncing around, for me, that's when it hit the spot. The glider deserves way more credit than it gets, honestly. I love when it provides a different angle to a playing field and it just lets you look around and enjoy it. Beyond that, you just continue retracing your steps back towards the start line, and when you make it there, the race is done. This track gets 3 points, and the diversity point is still up for grabs because it is very different than the city track before it. Which I am noting because the next one is a snow theme. Merry Mountain has some ridiculously good holiday visuals. But outside of that, it is a fairly simple track. I wouldn't go as far to say it's boring. There's a lot of fun to be had here, whether you're moving up or flying down. And the visuals are just a great bonus. But I do think almost all of the other snow levels in the game were more exciting than this one, barring maybe Game Boy Advance's Snowman Land. It's funny because prior to getting to this track, I was thinking this actually might end up being a 16-pointer. Or I guess a 15-pointer because I'm not sure the tour track would be the easiest. But looking at this one here, not only is it easier than both of the tracks before it, it's also not enough to make me give it 3 points. I'm going to be flat out honest about this. I don't think I've played this one all that much. As a matter of fact, when I started gathering footage and I got to this one, I was kind of surprised. I know I definitely played it because I played every single track, but I must have just played it when it first came out and then never again. But this track does make me think of Sky High Sunday, or rather the general perception that I see of Sky High Sunday. I often hear a dialogue that Sky High Sunday is super simple, and that's mostly because of the map layout. But if you look at this one, they're not really that much different. But I guarantee you if you're playing Sky High Sunday and then jumping to this one, Sky High Sunday feels like there is so much more going on. I don't know if Merry Mountain gets a whole ton of praise, but I am fairly confident it doesn't get as much hate as Sky High Sunday. Maybe I just like sweets more than you like Christmas, but I think this is injustice. And for that injustice, I almost want to give this one 0 points, but I will not let my emotions get the best of me here. Because honestly, I view this one the same way I view some of the Game Boy Advance tracks or even Toad Circuit. It's very simple, nothing too crazy going on, but it would make for a fun and competitive race if you're playing with the right crowd. In any case, we'll give this one 1 point and move on to the Nintendo 3DS's Rainbow Road. This is a good Rainbow Road. It's technically just a single lap divided into 3 sections, and those sections do differ quite a bit. The first segment of it actually feels like a true Rainbow Road. This is my favorite area. After that, you get to the whole space theme part where you're driving on the planet's ring, and it's okay, but it starts to go downhill when you get to the big planet down below. I feel like that portion just kind of takes away all the life from the track for a moment. Which sucks because the segment with the planet's ring before it was onto something. The final segment I'm pretty hit or miss on. The first half of it just feels like kind of a spectacle, and the second half goes back to that traditional Rainbow Road feel. I think this track has some very high highs, but the lows are too low to ignore. It's not going to get the 3 points from me, but it's also not going to get a 0. I'm pretty sure the reason I don't like the Mario Kart 8 version of Rainbow Road is because whenever I play that one, this is the one I actually want to be playing. The problem is I don't even like this one that much because I feel like it takes away from the thrill of Rainbow Road too much. So if this one is a 1, then obviously Mario Kart 8 is going to be a 0. And the reason this one is a 1 and not a 0 is because I think it changes a lot, but it doesn't change too much. Like it still gives you a lot of that Rainbow Road feel, even if it falls a little bit short. which I can't say the same for the Mario Kart 8 version. Thankfully, the diversity point is still up for grabs because nothing is like Rainbow Road except for the other Rainbow Roads. So let's tally this one up. The Moon Cup in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe receives 3 points for Berlin Byways because I love it, 3 points for Peach Gardens because I also love it, 1 point for Merry Mountain because I like it, and 1 point for Rainbow Road 3DS because I like it. An additional 3 points is earned because I think this is totally diverse, and 0 points for the difficulty curve, which means that the 18th cup in this game earns itself 11 points. We are now in the final 6, and just quickly glancing over them, I know there's going to be a lot of tracks that I love here. It'll be interesting to see if that's reflected in the score along with the rest of the Grand Prix. But for now, we get to talk about my least favorite emblem in the entire game, the Fruit Cup.